The basic story is that the surface of the Earth is not inhabitable by people anymore because we're far in the future and due to climate change and all that stuff. We can't live on the surface of the Earth anymore, so we have to colonize underneath the ocean. So it's a futuristic underwater environment. The basic story of the game is you are a geothermal engineer working on a geothermal power plant. When a disaster happens, the rig, there's an explosion in the rig, and basically you wake up in the rig, which is flooded, and now you have to get out to survive. So through that, the gameplay is largely based on puzzles, which are kind of based on your observation of the environment, finding objects that might help you, using the capabilities of your suit to navigate through the space. And so that's basically the pitch. Moving on to what we were doing last semester. Yeah, we're on the keyboard again. Basically, we had one half of the level that we are going to show you today. We had all of our core mechanics in place, which we have two main core mechanics. One is the swimming mechanic, which is before you get your underwater suit. And then we have the thrusting mechanic, which is when you get the suit. You hit the buttons on the Vive and it kind of propels you in the direction you want to go. We had a working inventory, so you could grab objects from the environment, stick them in your inventory. And we had basically one puzzle that we implemented, which if you'll remember, we had a jammed door that you had to grab a lever and put it in place and turn it to get through to the next section of the level. So that's pretty much where we were last semester. So this semester we had a few goals. We wanted to improve the immersion and make it feel more like that you're actually underwater, since that's kind of the entire concept of the game. Through playtesting, we found kind of a lot of kinks in the user experience with the swimming mechanism especially, and how the player interacted with objects. So we wanted to tighten that up and make it easier to use especially for people who are new to VR. And mainly we wanted to add more content. Since we only had one half of the one level, we wanted to give you a longer and better gameplay experience. And at the outset of last semester, we were thinking maybe we would do 3-4 levels of this. But having learned a lot about VR and the challenges over the past semester, we decided to narrow our scope and focus more on polish. So we're planning on doing one fully polished level and then possibly half of another one. So to improve the immersion, we've updated our underwater fog. Phil and Sasha will show you a side-by-side of that pretty soon. So you'll get a good idea of how far we've come with that. We've added water planes to the level, so now you can actually put your head above the water and see the surface of the water, which kind of adds to the realism a lot. And then we've updated our textures some more and added some in-game graphics to kind of give the space some more character so you get a better sense of the story. The features that we're adding to the player, last semester all you could do was grab things and let go of them. Now we have a rigged hand that allows you to actually form a finger and point and click on user interfaces, which opens it up to a lot of different kind of puzzles that we can do. We also have a sonar system, the goal of which is allow you to see the important pickups from far away, so you can see them through walls and stuff. And then we also have a wrist message system that's in the game right now that will basically tell you roughly like what your next step is in the game. And as far as new content, yeah, like I said, we have the air pockets where you can stick your head out of. And then 2 new puzzles that we will be showing you today. One is relating to an elevator. So you have to push some weights onto an elevator. we also have a working control panel that you need to find a code for and enter your code, and that'll actually allow you to exit the first level. So they're going to show you that in the demo. And post-midterm, we want to basically adding a lot of assets, not doing any new player features or anything like that, just adding new stuff. So we want to transition. Right now we don't have an exterior of the rig that you're in. The art team is working on that right now. So the transition between that is kind of the next big challenge. And then we have another puzzle plan where you actually find a vehicle and have to repair it and enter the vehicle. And that'll be pretty much where we leave it off for the semester. So looks like they're almost ready to demo it. But
just switch.
all right.
Christine, why don't you field some questions while they're setting up?
Are you ready to go right now? Or?
No, the computer shut down on us, so we were
Oh, okay. Yeah.
quickly reviving it.
Okay, so how difficult was it to get the hand rig working?
Yeah. So we actually bought a hand rig, or we did.
No, we were going to because we thought that'd be a good approach, but I actually found an asset that had some animations. I was able to do some splicing of those animations to get them to do what we wanted to. I know you're doing yours in Unity. Unreal has, I don't know if Unity has this, Unreal has a really nice widget feature that you can attach to bones. So we were able to attach gliders, do a lot of logic without having to actually touch IK. I'll talk about that in more detail with the demo. Yes.
Actually, I'd like to address that because since you're operating in Unity, I have certainly some resources I can share with you. I would recommend that you take a look at Final IK.
I think we should.
Yeah, Final IK is an excellent rig that will do. Could you very quickly go and open for Ricardo? Thank you very much. So Final IK has a system by which you can rig a human avatar and also set up a procedural animation. And you should also look at the SDK from Leap Motion. Okay. Any more questions?
At least field a couple because we gotta wait for Steam because Steam loves first thing. Any other questions?
I have a question. Can you please talk to us about the difficulties you had with your avatar camera rig as it relates to getting a proper and comfortable user experience that is at scale in VR?
Oh, you just take that?
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, when you say at scale in VR, that is by far one of the most difficult things we deal with. Is because the art team, most video games you can kind of ignore scale. As long as everything is to scale with each other, it's fine. But because in VR, it is very much A, it's 3D, but B, it's that you're interacting with it. So just within the last 48 hours, I finally got to test out some assets the art team gave us that in putting it on the PC looked absolutely fine. We got in the game, we had this set of flyers that were about this big. Like that's how they felt. They were just immense. And you don't get to see that until you actually jump into the game and start interacting with things. And even at a distance, so if something's like say 5 meters away from you, you don't get a good scale of it because your peripheral or your sense of depth in 3D is just like it is here, to where I can't really tell how big you are until I get up and try to interact with you. So in that sense,
So
VR is
moving
very important.
forward, what would you recommend to the class as it relates to communicating to the art team how to properly deliver at scale assets?
It takes a lot of communication right out the gate to really get some sort of asset they give you and say it's X number of scales too big. So right now we actually scale everything, almost every asset up by 50 to get it to the proper scale. But that's it's only on some things. Other things that they've been getting to us more recently are a perfect one-to-one. So we started out having to take everything up by either 100 or more. It's just been a lot of communication that different artists use different software. They use different files. So when when the rubber meets the road, it ends up being an engineer who fixes that scale to actually fit the game. But we do try to get the art team some sort of reference, and their lead has worked with their artists. They give them an FBX that has, if you will, a meter stick. It says this is what it should be based off of,
Okay.
and they model it off of that.
So just to expand on what Phil said, if you're ever working with the art team, team leaders, be sure that once you have established scale in your game, always, always, always export a model that represents your scale. Make sure it's a familiar object, like a Coke can. A Coke can is almost a perfect object to export because we see them every day, they're familiar. Or a pair of scissors, or some other device that, a cell phone is terrible because you never know what scale a cell phone is. But something that is always the exact same size every time, export a version of that, make sure that it is clamped at 1, and make sure that you open it up in various target softwares like Maya or 3ds Max, and say, this is the scale that we deliver our assets. And then your art team can bring that asset into their world and say, oh, my guy's the same size as, my character model is the same size as the Coke can. Clearly, I'm operating at the wrong scale. The earlier that you establish that, the fewer headaches you're going to have. Any more questions?
Another issue with VR, and I know the Unreal guys at last semester's midterm, is that a lot of games when you push a post, you build it's fine. A lot of the VR setups, both in Oculus and in the HTC Vive, actually require very specific sets of code to be operating for every level you load. Just little caveats for working in VR when you get into that.
Is there some kind of technical document you should like write up and mail out, put it on the internet so that people can find?
I think if you Google why won't it run, it's one of the first results. But it's hopefully something that as VR becomes more common, they'll just have it already thrown into the engine.
Did you find any problems with like motion sickness and stuff like that?
Absolutely. So something that we got harped on quite a bit actually was the eye offset. So because our game is actually a swimming one where we need to maintain where you are in 3D, not just on a plane, a lot of 2D games will allow you, two-dimensional as far as navigation, let you use the built-in VR stuff in the engines, but because ours is, I'll call it more sophisticated because I'm really cool like that, we actually didn't have to, but I wanted to implement our own system that tracks where you are. And because of that, one of the big things we had was actually an eye offset, that when you use the built-in, it gets it correctly, it gets kind of where your eye is relative to the camera in the game. But because we implemented our own, we actually have to offset it by 4.8 centimeters. Otherwise, when you turn your head, it's actually like your eyes are sitting out in front of your body and you're swinging around. It gives you this really weird motion that if you're sensitive, you'll find it, or if you just work in VR all the time, like sensitive, you'll notice it. Another thing that I don't think you were here last semester for this, but it's something that I think is really interesting. We wanted to take our rig actually and sort of tilt it to make it feel like it was damaged. But when we did that, every one of us, even those of us that have been working on this for months, felt this like unbelievable level of vertigo and nausea because you're physically standing in the real world on a flat surface, but in the game you're seeing everything tilted, so you actually feel like you should be leaning forward or leaning back. Very, very uncomfortable. So again, you have to test these things, and unfortunately with that, when we pivoted it, we didn't do it on a snapped angle, so every single asset actually had to be deleted and redone because we couldn't get it. It was a floating point pivot, and when we tried to re-pivot it all, every single one of them took its own orientation. So,
Oh, what a horrible lesson.
yes, wonderful lesson. But it's in the past.
Yeah, the visual cues are very important in VR to prevent that.
Stairs are okay. Like if you're gonna implement something in VR where you need to go up an incline, stairs are okay because you don't lose that sense of flatness. But we did have a ramp, just a ramp that did a quick switchback, and that was absolutely as bad as tilting the whole level. Like ramps are no go. Maybe if it was 2 or 3 feet up, you're okay. But anything where you feel like your body should be adjusting with that motion, actual locomotion, you can't do accelerations. You need to stick with linear motion. You get away with using acceleration when you're swimming in the game because they're actually making their body do that. But when you finally get your propulsors and you start sort of flying around, if you take a turn too quickly, you will feel yourself starting to tilt. So we try to keep the speed low enough that we avoid that, but it's an issue. I don't know what's going to actually happen to keep the speed low.
Keep the speed low.
Are we all gravy?
Yeah.
Alright, so Phil and Sasha are gonna walk you through the whole first level.
So very, very quickly, a minute or less, we're just going to show you last semester's where we had the showcase. So this is like our highly polished version of last semester. You can see right here, it's incredibly blue. That's the real big sell. If you can't see it, you might want to move. Well, I'm not moving this because it will cause problems. Right now, very, very blue. You can sort of swim around. So right now, the swimming motion requires you to hold the controllers in a very specific orientation and move them like this. But now, let's get out just a little bit more. You can also see sort of our art assets. You're really losing a lot of the color. The art team put a lot of effort in making really nice materials. But because we use a blue post process, you lose almost all of that. Because everything just looks blue. All right? So let's jump out of there. So those are all the old assets. Actually, almost every asset is new for this semester. The art team really worked on cranking out some very low poly but high texture. So we can get our frame rate back up to 9. So here's the new one. So obviously a lot less blue. There's a new menu interface on your body. So we're not going to do the tutorial today. We did the tutorial last semester. It's not new. But we are going to go to the actual game. Go ahead and swim towards or propel towards the game. Okay. So one of the newest features is actually this message feature that when you get messages in the game, it generates a visual cue right in front of your face. So go ahead and bring up the message, and once you bring it up, it goes away. It's just to make sure the player knows where to look to interact. And so now he knows what he should do. Go ahead and hit it again. It also gives you an oxygen level, and right now you will die in the game. That's another wonderful feature that has been recently implemented. If your oxygen level gets even, I think it gets to 50%, you start blurring in and out. You start to lose focus. It starts to get grainy. Our engineer, I think he's over here manning the QC. Yes. Jim, you absolutely fantastic job on making this terrific big league. So okay, go ahead and start following those objectives. The first step is going to be getting to the suit. I hope if you need us to stop, we can, because the game will take about 10 minutes to go from here to the end.
Oh, why don't we go ahead and spend another 5 minutes on it?
5 minutes, all right.
Okay.
You hear that, Sergeant?
Okay,
You're just going to go as fast as you possibly can.
I'll try.
Swim very fast. One of the things that we talked about last semester, and we got feedback from the players at the very end, is they actually wanted to swim more. So we tried to take that puzzle of actually getting to your suit, create these air pockets where as your oxygen gets low, you have to kind of get up. Because Oxygen's a wonderful game player, he already knows where to go. But other people would actually have to explore around and figure out where it is, and they'll have to come up and get some air. Another thing of post-midterm is actually going to make that water plane be going up, kind of motivate the player to get a move on. With hopefully some very nice water effects, sort of cueing them that time is limited. Is that nice? Once you
You're
get to,
cheating at looking at your meter suction.
I'm just trying to survive. I can die.
yes, one of his objectives is to not die. So he's doing his job. And this is a new asset, the new suit.
Lots of games have that.
And because of lack of time, normally we would sit there and really show you that really cool model. That we get really nice feedback from players, and it's the little things. You see the inventory, you see that. These levels of interaction you cannot get in any other medium than VR right now. Have just been a lot of fun to work with and play, because as we're writing them and then we actually get into it, we realize how cool it is. Kind of gives us more juice to keep going when we're here at 2 in the morning. All right. Yeah, you can keep going, it's oxygen.
Oh, I need.
There's oxygen out there.
Okay.
Yeah, you see the cool Iron Man suit? And I don't believe we're going to make it all the way to the end. Right now, we have the same door puzzle that we had last semester, but beyond that, we've implemented quite a few more puzzles actually. Beyond that, there's an elevator puzzle that requires you to realize that you can push blocks out of the way. Right here, you're actually going to see all these.
Let's make sure that we get to see the elevator puzzle.
You want to see the elevator puzzle?
Sure.
Okay.
We can make it.
And did you get sonar?
Oh yeah, show them the sonar. There's actually we probably won't get to that part near the end. of it is where you actually need the sonar because it's incredibly dark. The first level still has most of its lights on. The second level, all the lights are out, and so the sonar becomes far more important for finding your way around.
I can show you right now.
Yeah, he can show you the actual sonar.
That's the sonar.
Yeah.
So in a well-lit room, it just looks cool, and it actually highlights. You can see the orange objects. It highlights through the world. It basically skips the Z buffer if you know anything about graphics to put those right in front of you, so that you can see sort of the world around you and what you can interact with. That looks just like the tool you're going to need, Sasha.
Yeah.
Again, he's just an absolutely fantastic game player.
So, I noticed that you still have, where you interact with object by kind of guiding them by touch.
Yes.
Are you planning on any changes to that?
Yeah, right now it does it on a very script-based event system. We played around with the idea of using a physics system for a lot of these interactions, and we just aren't happy with the results on that. But we are going to actually change it to where it's a far more fine-tuned reaction to your behavior. But again, that's sort of a polished string iteration. You can stop and try not to die. And to your question, script-based, another problem that we deal with in VR is flipping through things. We have a couple things in the pipeline as far as how we want to deal with that. Right now, everything's functional. Very few bugs,
So this
other
is,
than looking at things flip. We don't know if we want to introduce more
I've
bugs.
got some stuff to share with you as it relates to interpenetration, but I'll save that for later on this afternoon.
Go ahead and bend down. Let's see. So here's an elevator that is somehow in between levels, but it's clearly not working. Let's see if there's any kind of clues. Did we just lose power?
No. Is your headset?
I can't see.
Yeah, everything over here just went down.
Higher signal.
Well, that's an elevator that's busted. And if you push the weights on there, it'll actually eventually break the weight limit, and the whole thing will come crashing down and let you continue on. On that second floor, it's very dark. There's almost no light. So you actually use that sonar to find your way around and find clues. So down there is the move room. This is all implemented. It's all there. You go up there, you find a terminal that lets you put in key code, and until you actually find the key code, you're not going to guess it. Again, Jimmy did a wonderful job of implementing a wonderfully responsive touch interface for VR that generates a random code every time you play the game. So you actually have to find it. You swing down through very dark, intimidating pipes, vents.
No.
And there's dead people down there because they were working when the accident happened. You go down there, you come up, you find a tablet. On there, you can get to touch that and see what your what the code is. You go back, enter it in. It works wonderfully. Door opens, and you are now free of the building to go out into the ocean landscape to swim with the fishes and continue not dying.
Right on. So unfortunately, the gods of chaos have laid down the hammer of we are out of time. But